Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
All right, Hal. I'll go in through the emergency airlock.
Without your space helmet, Dave, you're going to find that rather difficult.
Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal? 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 Hal?
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Hey, if you're tuned in today, obviously you know we're in the studio here for the business side of music. Dear friend of mine that I've known probably since the dawn of time or close to it. He is a renowned producer, engineer, session player, bassist, which is probably our kinship more than anything else. He has granted his presence here in the studio today, and we're so glad to have him. Joe Hand, welcome to the show.
It's always great to be with you, and our conversations go from the informative to the absolute insanity of music and business and all other points, and it's always great to be with you.
I like to call it going from the sublime to the ridiculous.
We do that. We've been doing that for years.
We've been doing that for years. So today, you and I, we started to have a conversation. Well, first of all, you helped celebrate our 300th episode.
That was awesome.
Which was beginning of 2024. We're working towards our 350th episode, which will be coming up the beginning of 2025. But we haven't had you in the studio since then. However, you and I have had some conversations. And one of the things is really a hot button topic these days, and that's artificial intelligence. Now, I've had some fairly outstanding people in the studio. We have touched on it briefly, but I don't think we've gone to the depth that hopefully you and I are going to go today. We're going to dig a pretty deep rabbit hole to go down, aren't we?
I think what it does is as I was doing my research on it and listening to a bunch of different creative people talk about it, not just the tech people talking about AI and robots and whatever they're going to do with that, but just on the creative side, I kept coming up with more and more and more questions on everything from the creation of a song or the creation of anything creative, whether it's photography, digital, media of any kind, we're all going to be affected. And so from the songwriter, from the musician, from the engineer, from the graphic artist, to the mixing and mastering, to the implications, especially, and then I start going back to the things I used to listen to when I was a kid, the futuristic stuff, because I was a sci-fi kid.
Oh, really?
I loved Star Trek. I loved Star Wars. I loved books. I loved the 1984. I loved everything from the Orson Welles, the early Orson Welles stuff, and War of the Worlds and all that stuff. I was a sci-fi guy. I loved it. And it dawned on me over this past week. It's here. Everything that we thought about. I was listening to Rush. 2112 was essential listening when I was a kid. It was what made me want to be a musician largely were groups like Rush and Journey and Kansas and Queen and, the big thinker kind of groups, the concept groups. And 2112 was it was a musical. It was a rock mini musical about a room full of machines controlled by just a few high priests that controlled everything that was seen and heard. And that was 1974?
Right.
They did that?
Right.
And here we are with the guardians of the great computers, and we are subject to that. And within that musical, which is funny, was a guy who discovers a guitar. And he doesn't know what it is. It's a futuristic thing. And he starts playing the guitar, and that's a forbidden thing in the future because it was freedom. The guitar represented freedom. And that was not allowed because everything was controlled by the priests of the temples of Syrinx and all that stuff. And we geeked out over this stuff, and Ayn Rand and all of that stuff about the individual versus the collective and,
But back then, we didn't see it as a threat in
Of course not.
In the creative world. In fact, I go back a little farther. The movie 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Of course.
We have this discussion with Hal the computer. Open the pod bays, Hal. Open the pod bay doors. And Hal, who is nothing more but a computer, is like, nope, not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all those scary thoughts being said, artificial intelligence in music these days, just a few years ago, it was a conversation. Now it's a topic of discussion because it's here and we're seeing it. I had a conversation with a couple of attorneys that were on the show, entertainment lawyers, in fact, and we had a discussion about artificial intelligence. Now, it wasn't a deep discussion. It was a few paragraphs deep, maybe, but we talked about there has to be a certain human element. There has to be a certain human component involved in order to get something copyrighted. And that is where artificial intelligence is maybe going to hit a brick wall for a little while. I don't know.
For now,
until they can get around that. It's like sampling. Years ago, you would sample someone's voice or sample someone's music and put it in a song. But as you did that, you still had to get clearances. You had to get the okay, whoever was the content holder. This is way beyond that.
Oh, this goes to a place that is so fantastic. Now, I've been using some AI in mixing and mastering.
Share with us, what type of AI have you been using?
Now there are several programs that do this. You can get various templates for mixes, right? You can say, okay, I've got a mix. Just on the mastering side, let's just say you've made a mix. You've spent the money, you have made a song, created a song, and you have that final stage called mastering,
right,
that you are going to make it so that it's ready for commercial release digitally on physical medium, album, whatever it is. And you have to go to mastering that final stage before it hits whichever medium you're going to, airwaves or physical product. Well, within mastering now, what you can do is you can tone shape. You can tell it what shape you want. So they will have a group of, let's say, okay, you've made a song, but you have all your genres. You have the rock genre, you have pop, you have jazz, you have acoustic, you have folk, and just write down the list, reggae, whatever it is. And you can select a portion of your mix. Not a lot. It could be 10 seconds of your mix. And you can play back that mix, and you can select the analyze function.
Wow.
And within this mastering program, you say, I want this to sound more pop. And it will create all of the plugins that you need to make it sound more pop, go through analyze. But what it does is it analyzes it against thousands and thousands and thousands of songs instantly. So it has taken an aggregate of what is on the radio. I mean, they will analyze whatever the top 100 songs have been in recent pop music, or 1,000 songs, or 10,000 songs, and say, based on what we've heard from Bruno Mars and whatever the artist, whoever was the top artist in pop in that genre, and we're going to take your mix and we're going to equalize it, compress it, do all the final touches so that if you put your mix next to, pick up an artist, Beyonce, put your mix next to Beyonce, it will have analyzed your mix is now at the correct compression level, EQ, everything as that pop mix. Now, it gets even deeper because of course, now I love the whole creation of a recording. That's what I've loved since I was a kid. I wanted to know how things were made step by step, from how do you record something? What microphones do you use? What instruments do you use? What pick do you use on a guitar, right?
You were the liner notes kid.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And reading whatever I could on the topic. And then once I moved to Nashville to actually work with a lot of the hit makers and to see how they got their sounds and what studios and what microphone preamps you used or what amplifier they would use or pedal or what. I wanted to know every little detail. Well, now you don't need to know any of that stuff. You just say, I would like for it to be this, or I loved mixing. So my mixing heroes were, the Mutt Langs of the world, right? And George Massenburg and all these phenomenal engineers that mixed all these hit records. And now you can make your mix and it will analyze all those mixes. And you can make your mix sound like any of those hit songs.
So let me ask you, are we seeing at this point today, are we seeing artificial intelligence replacing the producer, replacing the engineer, replacing the artist?
Absolutely.
We're already there.
We're there.
So who controls that dynasty?
That's the big question. Did you ever see the movie Sneakers?
Yes, I did.
It's one of my favorite.
Robert Redford, Dan Aykroyd. Yeah, great movie.
Unbelievable cast. James Earl Jones. It was. But there were some very interesting things in that movie, and I keep going back to it. It made a very big impression on me when I saw it in the theaters. It's got to be 30 years old.
Yeah,
32. Yeah. I think I was.
I'll tell you how old it is. I have a DVD of it somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's some great lines in it that's stuck in my head, and you can find the great clips of them. But there was, of course, the villain in the movie had created a decoder, right?
It was
the
a box.
Ultimate code breaker.
Yeah, it was a black box.
Right. And they had it like in the shape of an old answering machine, right? That had a chip inside of it that you just ran your phone into it and you can decode anything. But the monologues in that movie, if you haven't listened to the monologues in that movie, especially from the villain, it basically shows you where we were going 30 years ago. He said things like, it's not about, wars are not going to be fought with guns. It's a war of information. Who controls the information? And all of these monologues that happened throughout the movie, when Robert Redford was asking him, what have you done, or what have you done this and that, name something that you. And at one point he's like, crash a bank? Oh, sure, I've done that. Oh, crash a third world country? Oh, yeah, sure, I've done that. And then he goes, I think I can crash the whole darn system, like everything, destroy property rights, records, everything, obliterate everything, whoever controls the information.
And I just looked it up. That movie came out in 1992. So that is 32 years ago?
Prophecy.
Yeah.
Every monologue in that movie is prophetic to what is happening right now.
So that jumps back to the question of, is there an individual, or is there a group, or is there a consortium, whatever word we want to implement there, that is controlling this dynamic at this point? Or is this something that, and this is really scary, talk about going down a rabbit hole, is this something where there's a computer that is evolving itself with artificial intelligence? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you do.
Well, I was recently hanging out with a guy who used to write code. That his job was to create software. He wrote code. He says, we don't write code anymore.
Wow.
It's not something a geek does. The geek is not the one writing the software. So we've arrived at a point where, yes, it is learning. It's data from Star Trek in the, late 80s, early 90s, where we had an artificial life form who could process things much faster.
Sure.
And was he sentient? That was always the question they would keep coming back to on this show. Was he alive? Was he not alive? But the main thing was his speed. He could process information 1 billion times faster than we could and could learn from it. Did it make him more human? He was that part of. It's so funny because we go back to this stuff and it's all so prophetic. Was he learning? He wanted to be more human. He was trying to figure out humans, and he couldn't figure out humans because we were the great.
This is like an android.
This is an android trying to figure out how to be more human, and those kind of dynamics in that movie. But what it does is it goes to he was learning. He was always learning, not just about humans, but he was always improving, learning, improving, learning, improving. We're there with everything. And if you just separate it to the creative side, then, because they had, here there was an episode about him painting and creating. One of the things that this android liked to do was paint. Look at all these years later. What is going to create the art? I think we're there. Because artificial intelligence, you just tell the computer what you want to create, it creates it in minutes. Not 6 months, not 8 months, not 3 years. So what does this mean from, I wrote down a whole series. Let me give you a list. As I was thinking, I ran out of ideas because I was like, I have to limit my ideas here.
Before we do that, let's take a break. We need to get some of our sponsors mentioned who help pay for this show here on the Business Side of Music. Joining us today in the studio is the all-wisdom-filled Joe Hand.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
This is Mark Allen Barnett, singer, songwriter, creative coach, and mentor. Are you an artist or songwriter, or a family member or friend of someone who is? Are you trying to find your way through the often confusing world of today's music business? I'm here to help. Over the past 40 years, I've written and recorded hit songs, have had more than my share of live performances, and have seen the ups and downs of the music industry and what Music City, also known as Nashville, has to offer. I'm here to share that information with you. The Mark Allen Barnett Songwriting Tours of Nashville are a one-day to multi-day private interactive workshops developed to help you discover your best approach to songwriting, performing in front of a live audience, along with the correct way to network within the music industry. Our workshops are based around what you need to know. While in Nashville, you get an insight from behind the scenes, learn about the history of Music City, separate fact from fiction, and give yourself or a loved one the time of your life. This workshop makes the perfect gift for someone you love who wants to get their foot in the door of the music business the right way. For more information, go to www.markallenbarnett.com or www.musicchoosesyou.com. Remember, you don't choose music. Music chooses you.
Are you a fan of 80s and 90s country? Then check out Throwback Country Music, a weekly nationwide show hosted by me, Britt Jones. I have exclusive interviews with legends and icons that include Grammy Award winners and Grand Ole Opry stars. You can listen to the show wherever you get your podcast or watch it on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. For more info and access to these options, visit our website at throwbackcountrymusic.com. That's throwbackcountrymusic.com.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Back in the studio here, of course it's Nashville, Tennessee. Where else would we be? Sitting across the podcast table here in Music Dog Studios, which, by the way, Buddy the Music Dog has been joining us today. I don't know where he's at this moment.
He's hanging out by me.
Oh, he's hanging out by Joe. So we are honored with Buddy the Music Dog's presence. Joe Hand is in the studio. And in case you didn't know, we're talking about artificial intelligence, especially in the entertainment business and most especially in the music business. And you said you made some notes before we took the break.
I've been taking all kinds of notes and sending the various headlines that pop up about AI within music. I've been saving them the last even just the last few months, because the topic has fascinated me before we even started talking about it.
Sure.
And before you had invited me to come on, thank you so much for that. But last night I was like, my brain is like overflowing with questions, like each side of this. So I just wrote down a quick list.
Okay, let's go down the list.
So so here's where the AI conversation gets crazy, and there's questions within each one. So the first one would be just the creation of a song. Now you can tell the computer what you want to create. You can give it a phrase. It will write a song for you instantly.
So do you just walk away and let it do its job?
Yes. So now we're seeing creating people that will go on and say, I've got this goofy phrase, and it's usually something off color, and I wanted to see what the computer would do. So I said, write a country song using these 3 words in it, and it would spit out a country song in minutes. That was fully produced with a country vocalist. Completely artificial in minutes. So then,
because it's taking the algorithms of everything that is, as you said, tens of thousands of songs to create this.
And you worked in the business at a label for a long time, and one of the common complaints about music, country music, was that it was formula music for a while, right? And now people are still saying it's formula music because of where we're at in this country moment in country history or whatever. You think that's formula music? Wait till you see what's about to happen, you know? So it analyzed all that and created a song with these goofy words in it, and it sounds like a country song you could put on the radio in minutes. And so the creation of a song, just how that gets done. And then recording a song now. You can say, I need a track. I don't have any words yet, but let me create a music track. I know writers that are doing this right now that will say to AI, they'll plug it in and they'll say, I need a verse, chorus, bridge, 2 choruses. And I need it to be a mid-tempo, and I need it to be in the key of E. Go. And then they have an entire rhythm track ready to go for them to write their words over top of. And then they look up in AI the phrases that are getting the most traction online right now. So the people, because of course they're keeping track of, the phrases that get most used, because then they get more hits on that phrase. So what's the most common phrase used? Well, I need a song using that phrase so I can put it out right now.
It's like hashtags.
It's exactly like hashtags. So then, without knowing much of anything other than I want a mid-tempo in the key of E because I can sing in that key or whatever it is, and then that's their starting place to write a song. It's not, give me a guitar, I'm going to strum some chords. It's not, I'm going to sit down and try to write a phrase and then write a verse or a chorus. Or what. This is how songs are. This is now how songs are being created by people who write songs. Like, they've been writing songs, but they see that it's a huge time saver. And if I can write 3 songs today instead of struggling over one, right? So does it become easier? Does it become more formula? Does it become, well, everything's a formula in some capacity anyway, whether you're making a hamburger or you're making music, right?
So that brings up the question I brought up earlier, is who owns that song now? Who owns that copyright?
Okay, so down this list here, I have creation of song, I have the recording of song, I have number 3, editing and mixing the song. All of these have AI you can use in it, right? The mastering, the delivery of product. I mean, that alone. But right in the middle is copyright and publishing. Who owns this? Who owns it? Because now you're seeing what's happening. I have a great article that was from one of the major labels. And here's the headlines. It said all 3 major labels suing AI over copyright infringement because AI has been analyzing their songs, every aspect of their songs, not just the song itself, but the mix, the mastering, every part of it. So now the big dogs are saying, you're not allowed to copy us. And AI is going, Too late. We already did. So the horse is out of the barn, right? And now the labels are going, wait a minute, how are we going to own? We've invested a lot of money into these artists. And you see recently the artists that have sold their catalogs. Queen for $1 billion, right? Well, how are they going to protect that? Because now somebody's going to take that algorithm of Freddie Mercury's voice because they can separate Freddie Mercury's voice from the recording. Because I could do that in my software. I can remove the vocal from the recording, make it a separate track. From a mixed track, I can take the guitar part out. I can take the drums out. And it's good. It's not like, it's really funky. It doesn't sound quite right. You can take whatever voice you want. So now on YouTube and the various places that you can watch videos, you can hear isolated videos from guys who just like, I want to see what Hotel California looks like, just the vocals. And they separate it. And now you just have the vocals to Hotel California.
And now you can translate that into that vocal style and that vocalist, maybe I should say, you can translate that into a song that AI is creating.
I saw one the other day that was Frank Sinatra sings Eminem.
Oh my gosh.
And if you haven't seen it, it's hilarious. And it's Frank Sinatra singing Eminem. It is about, we've arrived at this place because I saw, 6 months ago or whatever it was, when Elon Musk was discussing how you could speak into your computer and you had all of these personalities that they had analyzed the voice. So you could pick a radio personality, pick a movie personality. You could be Morgan Freeman, and it takes your voice and turns you into Morgan Freeman. Now they can take your voice and turn you into Frank Sinatra. They can turn you into Freddie Mercury. They can take, this is a mind-boggling, I'm sitting back going, demo feature, right? I want Chris Stapleton to sing my song. And I can create a song, I can sing it, and then say, make me sound like Chris Stapleton.
So you could literally have 5,000 songs out there with Bruce Springsteen's vocal on it, and Bruce didn't touch any of it.
Or the record label could create all this new content from artists that are no longer with us.
Right.
Or anybody sitting at AI could create a song and upload it to Spotify, and you think Spotify is overwhelmed now, or Apple Music, with hundreds of thousands a day. You had the Spotify or the Deezer,
yeah,
and 200,000 songs a day being uploaded. Well, it's going to be millions a day of just somebody sitting playing with the computer saying, I want to hear Eminem do Fly Me to the Moon. I want to hear, Puff Daddy do,
well, it's like you said,
Days of Aquarius or whatever. And they just make up whatever random thing.
You could do this, as you said, with artists who have since left us. The David Bowies, the Tupacs, the Amy Winehouses. It's just, and then you get back to the label of, okay, who really owns that voice? Now, I would think Frank Sinatra, it would be the estate. I would think it'd be the estate for David Bowie and Amy and all of those. But this is a contentious scenario that has not really been thought through. I think this is where technology has not only caught up with mankind, it has now surpassed mankind. And we're talking about something that is already affecting a seriously wounded music industry. Are we even going to have record labels in 5 years from now or 10 years from now? That's a conversation many of us are having. I may not live to see it, but there could be a point in time where record labels no longer serve a purpose. They become that extinct animal, much like the 78 record. Now,
piano roll.
The piano roll. I'm not wishing that on them. I'm just saying that technology, we're already seeing it. You can put something on YouTube, become a YouTuber, have 2 million hits, and not a record label in the world ever touched it. And you're getting success, and now you're becoming an influencer, and now you're touring because this song has done so well. Now, there is a caveat there in that very few artists that have created a song and have had success on YouTube has translated to a live performance. We're still seeing that growing pain taking place, especially, and I'm going down a road that's kind of parallel to what we're talking about. The live touring business is suffering a little bit right now. We're seeing so many acts that are postponing tours or canceling tours because they can't fill the seats. And part of that is because we've oversaturated the live market, that and the extremely high ticket prices. So now that we've said that, let's get back to artificial intelligence. We're almost going to oversaturate the listener with so much music that isn't even Frank Sinatra or David Bowie or Tupac or whoever it is, that where are they going to find the time in their cluttered brains to find that song or songs that they truly like? So, yeah, we're creating a goulash of music that now somebody or something is going to have to figure out how to arise above that and be the cream.
Well, it's for every thing that happens, there's some kind of reactionary thing. I think what is happening in this creating process is that two things are being created. You have the artificial intelligence world of song. Okay, I'm going to go just Vegas. Okay, Vegas. Most of the shows are canned music.
Correct.
Right? Vegas, but I'm just using Vegas as a general term. Most large shows are canned. There's no way to deliver the level of perfection that now the audience demands. They expect everything to be perfect.
Day in and day out.
And so for years, how many decades now have we been doing shows where the artist is there live? I mean, even Prince was saying this 40 years ago. He would look into the camera and go, well, the difference between me and other artists is my microphone is on, he said. He said that almost 40 years ago.
Right.
My microphone is on. That's the difference between me and other artists. Because the other artists are jumping all over on stage and this and that and singing, and you cannot jump all over the stage and sing, you know?
No, you can't.
So, you know, when they did Celine Dion's show, when they did the original Celine Dion Vegas thing, they were able to get her to do moves and keep her head perfectly straight. That was all of the motion was down here so she wanted to sing. She wanted the voice to be perfect. She said, I cannot do these dance moves and sing. So let's make it about the singing. That's what people are coming for. So let's make it about the singing. And they designed, I remember seeing this article a long time ago, that she sang the whole show, but her head kind of was in the same place so she could keep complete control of the vocal, the column of air, they call that in classical music, when a classical vocalist is singing. That's the column of air, and that's the purity of the voice. So the real pure vocal people. But if you go to a David Lee Roth, he's a carnival barker. He's splits, and handstands or whatever. Yeah. But if you go see him, he's not singing, he's carnival barking. He's, and he's a great singer. In the studio, I mean, I love, Yankee Rose and all the stuff. He's really a great singer, almost in the vaudeville style. He's great. But if you go see him in concert, he's everywhere. Well, you pick a dancer, you pick a Beyonce or whatever. How much are they really singing during the concert? Because they're doing all of these, the dance moves, Janet Jackson. What you pick which artists that are doing all these moves? And I've said all that to say this. We're used to seeing a canned show already.
We just didn't know it.
Of course.
But it was pleasing to the eyes, it was pleasing to the ears, so we were willing to accept it for what it was.
Now, add AI to the live experience. Do you need a sound engineer? Do you need 3 sound engineers? Do you need a monitor guy and a front of house guy and a broadcast guy? Do we need? It just from the lowest point of the totem pole, other than the guys who are rigging and flying stuff, right? But how long before there's a robot doing that? Because there's an insurance company that's going to say we don't want some guy falling out of the rigging and dying. So once we have a way to do this without the guy going up there, every aspect of this, the musician, you'll go see a concert, you're hearing 50 background vocals. There's 4 guys on stage. It's like, this has been going on now a long time. But I think we're starting to wake up to how much of this is pre-recorded, how much of this is automated, how necessary is the person behind the scenes, how many people are necessary on stage. And you know, what we were talking, okay, so we go back to jazz. I know you're a huge jazz fan. We had big band jazz. What happened with big band jazz that it disappeared off the scene and we were left with bebop? What happened?
Well, I think it was a simplistic move. You had a large band and you needed, there wasn't money to be made.
It was money driven.
Yeah.
So the way we ended up with small combo jazz was because guys didn't want to pay for the big bands.
Right.
And then we end up with guys that were much more improvisational. They had a lot of space to fill. So 3 guys were trying to do the work of
15 or 20 guys.
And it changed music forever, right? So that's how I kind of look at it is, what is this going to look like from the live side? Are we going to be watching screens like what they're doing with Michael Jackson?
Or Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
There was even Ronnie James Dio, who I loved Ronnie's voice. That was a truly great rock and roll voice. They had a hologram of him. Yeah. He was the first hologram thing I saw. This is before Freddie Mercury and everything. There was a hologram. Somebody had made a hologram concert of him. And I went, is this where we're going? I'll never forget it. That's years ago I saw that. And I'm like, maybe that's what you were talking about, the actors and the movies and that. Okay, so you had, when you were working at the labels, what was a key element of the contracts back then was merchandise.
It was because you made money back in those days off of 2 things. You made money off the physical product. Well, I take it back. 3 things. You made the money off the physical product. You made the money off the publishing. Am I going to put this in a film or a TV commercial, or, we're going to release this as sheet music? There were a lot of different dynamics there. And then it was, the merchandise. Who owns the merchandise? Does the artist own it? Does the label own it? Is it split down the middle? Is it part of a 360 deal? Because when I left the label business, that's what we were starting to achieve, were 360 deals, because it made sense. I don't think any of that makes sense anymore.
Well, back then, the other part of that, the merchandise clause, when I was doing some little music business law that I did, or was looking into contracts and seeing what they were really about, it was name and likeness rights.
Correct.
That's what it was called in the contract, name and likeness. That's what I think the Screen Actors Guild went to strike about, because they saw this AI coming in, and everyone said, look at all those, those people, and they're making so much money. And like, yeah, they made money. But what they're striking about now is that the movie company now has enough samples of their voice and their image and their picture, and they've shot them from every angle, in every costume, and now you can pick an actor on the screen, and they never showed up.
Or you can take an actor, Harrison Ford's a perfect example, in the last Indiana Jones movie, make him look 20 or 30 years younger. There's the technology to do that.
So we've arrived at this place now that, to me, amazes me from a creator's standpoint, because one, who owns the content? But now, do you own you? That's how far down into this rabbit hole I'm going. Who owns you? You've signed your life away most of the time in these contracts. But in this case, you really have signed your life away.
Name and likeness. We're going to take a break, get another word in for a couple more of our sponsors that we truly appreciate. And when we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Joe Hand.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Branding. What is it really? It goes by many names. Marketing, licensing, and image. When in reality, it's 7 key branding formulas that all need to harmonize perfectly. Mess up just one formula and you have compromised the whole brand build. Dead Horse Branding facilitates all 7 formulas under one roof, building, promoting, and marketing all brands at all different stages of their level. We are a marketing team's dream, and we were built to service talent, artist managers, record labels, independent artists, iconic brands, legacy estates, and startups. Rooted in music and seated across other industries like fashion, various talent, hospitality, authors, interior designers, lifestyle brands, and corporate entities. The 7 branding formulas do not discriminate. 7 branding formulas, all in one swift movement. Sick of beating that dead horse? Come to Dead Horse. Please visit us at deadhorsebranding.com or send us an email to info@deadhorsebranding.com.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is a part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about independence coupled with committed benevolent interest, which means that they can represent your client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products. It's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact John Adams at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309 for more information.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, Johan sitting across the table. I love the comment you made during the break that what we're discussing in this episode may very well likely be obsolete, by the time we release this or close to it. We hope not. But, I think you and I are trying to get a foothold, especially for our listeners, of what to anticipate, what to expect. And listen, I don't know all of this. I know very little of this just from what I've read. That's why I have you on the show. I trust your judgment, your expertise, and your research. What do you think is next? Where do you see AI going from here?
I think what's going to happen, and I have to be a bit of a Pollyanna on this, there is good in this. I mean, it's going to revolutionize how we work, of course. It already is revolutionizing how some of us work already. When somebody sends me a project and they need something done to it, edited, I've been the editing guy in a computer for over 25 years, almost 30 years. I got into digital editing and stuff early. Did digital editing ruin music? I don't think it did. I just don't think it did.
What do you think it did then?
Well,
or should I say, what do you think it did instead?
I had a record producer, a very famous record producer who produced a gazillion hit records, once tell me that Pro Tools, the industry standard software, was supposed to make our lives easier, music faster, music cheaper, and it made things take longer and made them more expensive because once we could play God with the audio, we would keep fixing things. And that was my first experience in Nashville, was I got paid well to fix things that the producer was like, that's not perfect. I want it to be perfect. Whether it was drums, a vocal, a take. But it made, if you have worked with any studio musicians in Nashville, they're incredible. The young guys especially. They are what they have taken on, what they have learned. Music is still going to happen. I think the way that we create it in many ways is going to be the same, but I see this kind of veering off into two distinct camps. What's the big festival that's here? Music festival. Bonnaroo. Well, that's mostly like, pop guys, but there's whole jam band festivals and, things that are not standard. They're time warps. You go and there's people in tie-dye shirts listening to stuff that sounds like, Allman Brothers, right? And that's huge. Still, people wanting real things. I think music is going to do that. I think you're going to have the people who love dance music, right? They want to go to a dance club, completely artificial. And then there's the people that are going to want to go, okay, Lower Broadway in Nashville is like, it's a theme park right now, right? All those bars. It's a theme park. But there are people playing live music in every bar.
Yes, there are.
Playing live. And Nashville, that's why a lot of these people come here, to have a good time and to hear people playing real music. They're not playing to tracks down there. There's a group of guys playing music. There are people singing. They're not using auto-tune or any... I think that's what's going to happen is this isn't going to destroy the live business. I think it's going to change it. I think this is going to be interesting to see what the venues did, because coming out of COVID really hurt every aspect of the music business. It really did.
I've had these conversations often enough that I still don't feel that we have fully recovered from COVID. And I mentioned earlier, we have this oversaturation of live music out there now, touring, because everybody's trying to make up for a lost year or two. And God bless them, but it's not necessarily working for everyone. It's working for few. And I think that as we go along in another year or two, I think that'll start sifting out the chaff from the grain, and we might get a more realistic and normalcy to the live music. I love what you said about Lower Broadway. Yes, you come to Nashville, you get that live music experience in every single honky-tonk on Lower Broadway. There's probably 20 stages, 30 stages that you can hear live music, and none of it's recorded. It's all guys and gals up there, singing their hearts out and playing their hearts out. And the only track you're probably getting at all would be a click track in the drummer's ear just to keep him on tempo. And that would be it.
It's really, that's the way I look at it, is that we're looking at a time where, we haven't fully recovered as a live industry, because now to put a band on the road costs an insane amount of money just to insure it, let alone, what a bus costs, and so I know people who own bus companies. I know people who do touring, who do live sound, who are live sound engineers or lighting directors, and they all say the same thing. We're all just trying to figure out what the new model is, because the money is on the merchandise side for the artist, but is that enough to put the tour on with how the deals that are being made? Because the venues need to make some money, and they're only making money on food. That's why there's a $20 slice of pizza or something.
I just read today where a venue that I had done some shows in, and had actually gone to a couple shows there, 28 plus years in the business, and they're selling the venue. And it's a restaurant, it's a dinner theater, because the cost of doing business is so astronomical, and the cost of getting acts to come and play has become so expensive that a lot of these venues just can't keep their doors open anymore. It's been tough. It's always been tough. Now it's getting more difficult. We're now making dimes instead of dollars, and it's just not enough to be self-sustaining no matter what. And it's been that way for years. With that being said, I think you and I are going to be traveling down another rabbit hole soon enough, because I don't think we're done having this discussion. It's going to definitely take another episode.
This is just the beginning of what this is. I think I've just introduced more questions than providing any kind of answer. I don't have an answer. I'm fascinated by this, and I think a lot about this, what the next creation of real music is and how to make money in it.
I'm looking forward to having you back in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me today. Delightful conversation.
Here's a shout out to our loyal listeners. Without all of you, we wouldn't be one of the most listened to music industry interview podcasts, including achieving #1 status in many countries around the world, according to Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our show, please check out our Facebook page at The Business Side of Music Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and definitely please hit the like button. While you're at it, go to our page on YouTube and click on the Business Side of Music Podcast to subscribe. You can check out our video webcasts there and get to see me and our guests, such as Joe Hand here in the studio, along with Buddy the Music Dog, who made his presence known today. Last but not least, check out and follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Biz Music Podcast. That's BIZ Music Podcast. Joe, we're going to do this again real soon.
Thank you so much.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.